Girlfriend's best friend convinced her I'm toxic. She's stunned I dumped her over it. All right, so here's the deal. I'm a 28-year-old guy, been dating this amazing girl, Sarah, who's 26. We've been together for just over a year now, and for the most part, things are great. I'm really into her. She's smart, funny, all that good stuff. But there's this one thing that's been a constant thorn in my side. Her best friend, Jake. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not the jealous type. At least I try not to be. I've always believed in giving people their space, trusting them and all that. But with Jake? Man, it's been tough. Jake is 27, and he's been Sarah's ride or die since college. I knew they were close from the get-go, and at first I didn't think much of it. Everyone's got a best friend, right? No big deal. But as time went on, I started noticing stuff. Like, they're not just close. They're really close. And I mean, the kind of close where it starts to feel like I'm tagging along in their relationship instead of being in one with Sarah. You ever feel like the third wheel? That's me. All the time. Let me paint you a picture. It's a random Tuesday night, and Sarah and I have plans to chill. I'm thinking we'll watch a movie, maybe order some food, just relax together. But nope. Jake calls, and suddenly she's all excited about going out for dinner with him. And just like that, my plans, gone. Not even a, hey, want to come with us? It's like I don't exist. And the thing is, this isn't a one-time thing. It happens a lot. They have these regular hangouts, dinners, movie nights, late-night drives, the kind of stuff couples usually do. And every time I bring it up, she just says, oh, it's just Jake, you know how we are. Like, yeah, I do know. And that's kind of the problem. There's this one night I remember really well. We were supposed to have this chill evening, just the two of us. But guess what? Jake pops up again. He had a bad day, so Sarah feels the need to rush over and comfort him. And I'm sitting there like, what about us? But of course, Jake takes priority. And the worst part? When I do get to tag along, it's awkward as hell. Like, they've got their own little world with inside jokes and shared memories, and I'm just there, trying to keep up. You know that feeling when everyone's laughing at something, but you have no clue what's so funny? Yeah, that's me every time I'm with them. It's like they speak their own language, and I'm stuck trying to translate. At first, I tried to be cool about it. I told myself, they've been friends for years. It's not a big deal. You're being paranoid. But then I started noticing little things that didn't sit right with me. Like how Jake texts her all the time. I'm talking morning, noon, night. Even when we're together, her phone's buzzing with messages from him. And it's not just casual stuff either. He calls her babe and sweetheart. Who does that? One time we were out on a date and her phone kept lighting up with texts from Jake. I asked her about it and she just laughed, saying, that's just how we talk. It doesn't mean anything. But it felt off. I mean, I'm her boyfriend. Shouldn't those pet names be reserved for me? Then there's the late-night FaceTime sessions. I remember waking up in the middle of the night to find her whispering and giggling on the phone with him. I asked her about it the next morning, and she said Jake was going through something and needed to talk. Okay, I get that. But why does he always need her? Why can't he talk to one of his other friends or, I don't know, deal with his stuff like a grown man? I know some of you might be thinking, dude, just chill, they're just friends. And trust me, I've tried. But it's hard when you feel like you're constantly playing second fiddle to someone else. I mean, isn't a relationship supposed to be about two people, not three? What really gets to me is how much I've bent over backward to be understanding. I've swallowed my pride, pushed down my insecurities, and tried to be the bigger person. But there's only so much a guy can take before he starts feeling like he's just a background character in someone else's life. It's not like I'm asking for much. I'm not saying she has to cut Jake out of her life completely. I get it, they've got history. But would it kill her to set some boundaries? Like maybe not prioritizing him over me all the time? Maybe not using pet names that make it seem like they're more than just friends? Is that really too much to ask? Honestly, I'm at my wit's end. I love Sarah, but this whole Jake situation has me questioning everything. I feel like I'm constantly walking on eggshells, trying not to come off as the jealous, controlling boyfriend. But at what point do my feelings matter? At what point do I get to say, hey, this isn't working for me? Another time, we were out on a date. We just sat down at this nice little restaurant, and things were going great. But then her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and I could see her face light up. It was Jake, of course. She spent the next 10 minutes texting back and forth with him while I just sat there picking at my food. I finally asked her if she could put her phone away, and she looked at me like I was asking for the world. It's just Jake, she said. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal? It felt like I was sitting there alone while she was on a date with her phone. I started to feel like I was playing second fiddle to this guy, and it really started to mess with my head. Every time her phone buzzed, I'd get this sinking feeling in my gut, wondering if it was Jake again. Then there was the time we were planning a weekend getaway. We'd been talking about it for weeks, and I was really looking forward to it. It felt like a chance for us to just be together, away from all the distractions. But of course, Jake had to pop up again. He found out about this concert happening the same weekend and asked Sarah to go with him. And you know what she did? She asked me if we could reschedule our trip so she could go to the concert with Jake. I couldn't believe it. I mean, here we were planning this romantic weekend, and she was willing to push it aside for a concert with Jake. When I asked her why she couldn't just skip the concert, she got defensive. "It's a band we both love," she said. "I can't miss this with him." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Our relationship was supposed to be important, but it seemed like I was always getting the short end of the stick when it came to Jake. And it wasn't just the texting and the FaceTime calls. It was the way she'd light up whenever he was around, the inside jokes, the way she'd drop everything for him. I started noticing how much she'd change when Jake was in the picture. She'd be happier, more energetic, like he brought out a side of her that I couldn't reach. It made me feel like I was failing as a boyfriend, like I wasn't enough for her. But the thing that really got to me was how dismissive she was about my feelings. Every time I tried to bring up how uncomfortable I was with her relationship with Jake, she'd brush it off. "You're being ridiculous," she'd say. "Jake's just my friend. You don't have to worry about him." But how could I not worry when it felt like he was constantly in the middle of our relationship? It wasn't just about the pet names or the texts or the late-night calls. It was about the fact that I felt like I was competing for her attention, and no matter what I did, I always came in second place. I started to wonder if I was crazy for feeling this way, if I was just being insecure or jealous. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I wasn't asking her to cut Jake out of her life completely. I just wanted her to see how much it hurt me to always be pushed aside for him. But no matter how many times I tried to talk to her about it, she'd just dismiss my concerns and tell me I was overthinking it. It was like my feelings didn't matter, like I was just supposed to suck it up and deal with it. And that's when I started to realize that maybe this wasn't just about Jake. Maybe it was about something deeper. Maybe it was about the fact that Sarah didn't seem to care how her actions were affecting me, and that hurt more than anything Jake could ever do. All right, so I've been trying to keep things together with Sarah despite all the stuff with Jake. I've been telling myself that I just need to be patient, that eventually she'll see how much all this is affecting me. But let me tell you that patience finally ran out one weekend, and it wasn't pretty. So here's the setup. Sarah and I had been planning this anniversary trip for months. We were both super excited about it, or at least I thought we were. We had everything mapped out, a cozy little cabin, some hiking, just the two of us getting away from all the noise. It was supposed to be our time, you know? A break from all the everyday crap, and hopefully from Jake too. But a few days before we're supposed to leave, Sarah drops a bomb on me. She's all like, "Hey, so Jake just found out about this concert happening that same weekend. It's this band we've both loved forever, and he really wants me to go with him." I'm sitting there, kinda stunned, waiting for her to say, "But of course I told him no because we have our trip." But nope. Instead she goes, "Do you think we could reschedule our trip so I can go?" Reschedule? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was our anniversary, something we had been planning for months. And now she wants to just push it aside for a last-minute concert with Jake? I tried to keep calm, but I could feel the anger bubbling up. I asked her, "Why can't Jake just go by himself or with someone else? Why does it have to be you?" She gave me that look like I was being unreasonable. "You don't get it," she said. "This band means a lot to us. It's like a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I can't miss it." And there it was, the moment I realized where I really stood in this relationship. It was like no matter what, Jake was always going to come first. I told her straight up, "Sarah, this isn't okay. You're asking me to step aside for Jake again. It feels like I'm constantly competing with him for your time and attention, and I'm tired of it." But she just brushed it off, saying I was overreacting and that it wasn't a big deal. "You knew Jake was part of my life when we started dating," she said. "Why are you trying to change me now?" That hit me hard. I wasn't trying to change her. I just wanted to feel like I was a priority too. Like our relationship actually mattered. But in that moment, it felt like I was asking for too much. She was so defensive, like she couldn't even see where I was coming from. Then she said something that really got under my skin. "Jake thinks you're being controlling and insecure," she told me. Oh, great. Now Jake's weighing in on our relationship? Like, why does his opinion even matter here? This was supposed to be about us, not him. I told her I needed some boundaries. No more pet names with Jake, no more constant one-on-one hangouts, and definitely no more prioritizing him over our relationship. But she blew up at me. She called me controlling, said I was being toxic. It was like she couldn't even hear me. All I was asking for was some basic respect. But to her, I was the bad guy. We fought for what felt like hours. I kept trying to explain how I felt, how much it hurt to always be the second choice. But she just kept doubling down, insisting that I was the one with the problem. She even said, "If you can't handle Jake being in my life, maybe this isn't going to work." That was the moment I knew we had hit a breaking point. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine. I couldn't keep ignoring how much this was hurting me. I loved Sarah, but I couldn't keep sacrificing my own happiness just to keep the peace. It wasn't fair to me. After that fight, she started giving me the silent treatment. I was left alone with my thoughts, replaying everything over and over in my head. I kept asking myself if I was really the one in the wrong, if maybe I was being too sensitive or controlling. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. I wasn't asking for anything crazy. I just wanted to be treated like I mattered. I started thinking about all the times I had put her first, all the times I had made sacrifices for our relationship. And what did I get in return? More time for Jake, less time for me. It felt like I was fighting a losing battle, and no matter how hard I tried, I was never going to win. That weekend was supposed to be a celebration of us, a chance to reconnect and strengthen our relationship. But instead, it turned into another reminder of how far down the priority list I was. I realized that I couldn't keep living like this. Something had to change, or I was going to lose myself completely. And that's when I decided to give her the ultimatum. I didn't want to, but I felt like I had no choice. It was either she set some boundaries with Jake, or we're done. I didn't know how she was going to react, but I knew I couldn't keep going like this. I needed to know if she was willing to fight for us, or if I was just wasting my time. In that moment, I felt a weird mix of emotions: sadness, anger, frustration, but also a strange sense of relief. I had finally spoken my truth, laid everything out on the table. Now it was up to her to decide what she wanted. And honestly, I wasn't sure if I was ready to hear the answer. All right, so after the fight about the concert, I knew something had to give. I was done being the guy who gets pushed aside every time Jake decided he needed Sarah's attention. I loved her, sure, but I couldn't keep feeling like a distant second in my own relationship. It was draining me and I couldn't take it anymore. That's when I knew I had to draw a line. Now I didn't go into this thinking, "Hey, I'm going to drop an ultimatum and fix everything." Honestly, I didn't even like the idea of it. I've always thought ultimatums were a last resort, something people do when they're desperate. But at this point, I was desperate. I needed her to understand how much this was messing with me. So one evening I sat her down. No distractions, no phones buzzing with texts from Jake, just us. I tried to stay calm, but I was nervous as hell. I didn't know how she was going to take it, but I couldn't back down now. I told her straight up, "Sarah, we need to talk about Jake." She sighed, clearly annoyed. "We've already talked about this," she said, brushing me off like it was no big deal. But it was a big deal, to me at least. "I know we've talked," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "But nothing's changed, and I can't keep doing this. I feel like I'm constantly fighting for your attention, and Jake always wins." She rolled her eyes, which, let me tell you, did not help. "You're being ridiculous," she said. "Jake's my best friend. He's always been there for me. You knew that when we started dating." "I did," I admitted. "But I didn't know it would feel like this. Like I'm just a placeholder in your life while Jake gets all the important parts." That seemed to get her attention, at least a little. She frowned, but she didn't interrupt this time, so I kept going. "I'm not asking you to stop being friends with him," I said. "I get that you two are close, but there need to be boundaries. I'm your boyfriend, Sarah. I should be the one you turn to first, not him." She crossed her arms, clearly on the defensive. "What kind of boundaries?" she asked, almost challenging me. "No more pet names," I said, ticking off my points. "No more constant one-on-one hangouts, and definitely no more prioritizing him over me. If we're together, I need to feel like I matter. Like I'm not just some guy you're killing time with until Jake's free." Her face was hard to read, but I could tell she wasn't happy. "So what? If I don't do this, we're done?" she asked, her tone sharp. I hesitated, but only for a second. "Yeah," I said, feeling a lump in my throat. "If you can't do this, then maybe we shouldn't be together." Silence. She just stared at me, and for a moment I thought she might actually take it seriously, but then she shook her head and laughed bitterly. "You're giving me an ultimatum?" she said, incredulous. "That's not fair." "I know it's not ideal," I admitted, "but I don't know what else to do. I've tried talking to you about this and nothing's changed. I'm not trying to control you, Sarah. I just want to feel like I'm your partner, not some extra in your life." She didn't say anything for a while, and the silence was brutal. I could feel the weight of everything hanging in the air. and it was suffocating. Finally, she spoke. "You're asking me to change who I am," she said quietly. "No," I said, shaking my head. "I'm asking you to see how this is affecting me. I'm asking you to meet me halfway." She looked down at her hands, and for a moment, I thought she might actually consider it, but then she sighed and said, "Jake thinks you're being controlling." That hit me like a slap in the face. Jake thinks... Seriously, why does his opinion matter so much? This isn't about him. It's about us. She didn't have an answer for that, and the silence stretched on again. I could feel the anger and frustration bubbling up inside me, but I forced myself to stay calm. Losing it wouldn't help. "I don't want to be the bad guy here," I said softly. "I just want to be with you, without feeling like I'm competing for your attention." Sarah looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw something shift in her eyes. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was realization. I don't know. But she didn't say anything more. She just nodded slowly, like she was processing everything. "I need to think about this," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Take all the time you need," I replied, standing up. "But know that I'm serious, Sarah. I can't keep going like this." With that, I walked out, leaving her sitting there in the quiet. I didn't know what was going to happen next, but I knew I had done everything I could. Now it was up to her. And whatever she decided, I had to be ready for it. I wasn't really sure what to expect after dropping that ultimatum on Sarah. Part of me thought she'd just walk away, maybe even run straight to Jake. I'd prepared myself for the worst, but what happened next? Honestly, I didn't see it coming. It was Saturday night, a couple of days after our big fight. I was sitting at home, mentally gearing up for whatever was about to go down. I wasn't expecting her to show up at my door, but there she was, looking nervous and clutching her phone like it was some kind of lifeline. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice softer than usual. I stepped aside to let her in, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know if this was going to be another fight or what, but I knew we couldn't just leave things hanging the way they were. She sat down on the couch, fidgeting with her hands. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said," she started, not quite meeting my eyes. "About Jake, about us." I stayed quiet, waiting for her to continue. I didn't want to push her, but I wasn't about to let her off the hook either. She had to face this head on. "I canceled the concert," she said, finally looking up at me. "I told Jake I couldn't go." That threw me off. I didn't expect her to actually cancel. "Why?" I asked, trying not to sound too hopeful. She took a deep breath. "Because I realized you were right. I've been putting Jake before you, and that's not fair. I didn't see it before, but now I get it." I could see she was struggling with the words, like admitting this was physically painful. But she kept going. "I've been selfish," she admitted. "I've been so caught up in my friendship with Jake that I didn't stop to think about how it was affecting you. And I'm sorry." Hearing her say that was like a weight lifting off my chest. But at the same time, I couldn't help but wonder if it was too little, too late. "Why now?" I asked. "Why did it take an ultimatum for you to see this?" She hesitated, then said, "Because I was scared. I didn't want to lose you, but I also didn't want to lose Jake. I thought I could have both without any problems, but I was wrong." Her honesty hit me hard. I could see she was being sincere, and that wasn't easy for her. But I wasn't about to just sweep everything under the rug because of a few heartfelt words. "I appreciate the apology," I said slowly. "But this isn't just about the concert. It's about everything. The texts, the pet names, the late-night calls. It's been building up for a long time, Sarah." She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I know," she whispered. "And I don't want to keep hurting you. I want to fix this. I want to be better." It was a lot to take in. I could see she was genuinely trying, but trust isn't something you can rebuild overnight. "It's going to take more than just words," I told her. "I need to see changes. I need to feel like I'm a priority in your life." "I understand," she said, wiping away a tear. "And I'm ready to show you. I want to spend this weekend together, just us. No distractions, no Jake. I want to make things right." I wasn't sure what to say. Part of me was still guarded, not wanting to get my hopes up. But another part of me wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, we could turn this around. "All right," I said finally. "Let's see how it goes." She gave me a small, tentative smile, like she wasn't sure if I was being serious. But I was. I wanted to give her a chance to prove herself, even if I wasn't sure if it would be enough. We spent the rest of the evening just talking. No big plans, no distractions, just the two of us trying to reconnect. It was awkward at first, but as the night went on, it started to feel better, like maybe we were finding our way back to each other. She opened up about her friendship with Jake, telling me things I didn't know before, how he'd been there for her during some tough times, how their bond had formed over shared struggles. It helped me understand why she valued him so much, even if it didn't completely excuse her actions. And I shared my side too, how it felt to be sidelined, to always come second to someone else. I told her how much it hurt to feel like I wasn't enough, like I was just an afterthought in her life. By the time we went to bed, I felt emotionally drained, but also lighter. It wasn't like everything was magically fixed, but it was a start. We were finally having the conversations we should have had a long time ago. The next morning, she made us breakfast, and we spent the day just being together. No Jake, no interruptions, just us. It felt good, but I knew it was going to take more than one good weekend to fix what was broken. Still, for the first time in a long time, I felt like there was hope. Like maybe we could get through this if we both put in the effort. But I also knew I had to be cautious. I couldn't let myself get swept up in the moment and forget all the hurt that had brought us here. As the day went on, I found myself wondering what the future would look like. Could we really move past this? Would she be able to set the boundaries I needed? Or was this just a temporary fix for a bigger problem? I didn't have all the answers, but for now, I was willing to take things one step at a time. We still had a long way to go, but at least we were finally on the same page. And that, for me, was a step in the right direction. After our intense conversation, Sarah and I decided to spend the weekend together, focusing on us and trying to rebuild what had been falling apart. I was still on edge, unsure if anything could truly mend the damage, but I was willing to try. Friday night started off simple enough. Dinner, a movie, and an effort to just be present with each other. We were cooking in my kitchen, some pasta dish that didn't require too much effort. It felt nice, almost like we were back in the early days when things were easy and light. We were laughing, making small talk about random stuff, and for a moment, it felt like we were on the right track. But then, halfway through the meal, Sarah put her fork down and gave me this look, the kind of look that tells you something big is coming. "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice quieter than usual. My heart skipped a beat. I braced myself, thinking she was about to drop another bomb about Jake, or maybe something else entirely. The air felt heavy as I waited for her to continue. "I'm pregnant," she finally said, barely above a whisper. I froze, my mind scrambling to catch up. "You're pregnant?" She nodded, her eyes already welling up with tears. "I just found out a few days ago. I wasn't sure how to tell you. I've been scared." At first I was just in shock. Pregnant? It wasn't something we had talked about, at least not seriously. But as the words sank in, I felt a wave of emotion wash over me. Surprise, sure, but also a strange mix of happiness and anxiety. I stood up, walked over to her, and pulled her into a hug. "Wow," I said, still trying to process. "That's amazing." She clung to me tightly, and for a moment everything felt right. This was huge, life-changing even, but it also felt like it could be the start of something good, something that could bring us closer together. The rest of the night was spent talking about what this meant for us. We sat on the couch, hands intertwined, discussing everything from baby names to how we'd handle the practical stuff. Money, space, telling our families. Sarah seemed genuinely happy, and I started to believe that maybe this was exactly what we needed to move forward. But as the initial shock and excitement began to settle, a nagging thought started creeping into my mind, something I couldn't shake no matter how hard I tried. The next morning, we went out for a walk. It was one of those crisp, cool mornings that made everything feel a little more alive. We talked more about the baby, what the future might look like, but that nagging thought was still there, lurking in the back of my mind. After we got back to my place, I noticed something odd. Sarah's phone, which was usually buzzing every few minutes with texts from Jake, was eerily silent. No calls, no messages. I didn't say anything at first, but it was strange. Jake had been such a constant presence, always texting, always needing something. Now, nothing. As the day went on, I couldn't help but notice how much calmer Sarah seemed. No distractions, no checking her phone nervously. It was almost too quiet. I tried to push it out of my mind, to just focus on us and the baby, but the doubts wouldn't let go. That evening, while we were sitting on the couch, I finally asked her about it. "Hey, I've noticed Jake hasn't been around much lately. Is everything okay with him?" Sarah hesitated for a moment before responding. "Yeah, he's just giving us space," she said, her tone a little too casual. "He knows we're working through stuff, so he's backing off for now." It sounded reasonable enough, but something about it felt off. Jake wasn't the type to just step back, not after how involved he'd been in our lives. And then the thought hit me like a punch to the gut. What if Jake knows something I don't? What if that's why he's gone quiet? I didn't bring it up right away, but the doubt kept growing. I replayed everything in my mind: the sudden apology, the pregnancy announcement, Jake's absence. Was there more to this story? Was it possible that Jake had been more than just a best friend? And now, knowing about the baby, had he decided to step back because he thought it might be his? Sunday morning, I woke up early, unable to shake the thoughts. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything. Sarah was still asleep beside me, looking peaceful, unaware of the storm brewing in my head. As I got up and made coffee, I kept going over the timeline in my mind. If Sarah had just found out she was pregnant, that meant the baby was conceived at least a couple of months ago, around the same time when things between us had been at their most strained, and she was spending a lot of time with Jake. The pieces started to fit together, and not in a good way. I couldn't bring myself to ask her outright, not yet, but the doubts were there, gnawing at me. Was this baby really mine? Or was it possible that Jake was the father, and that's why he had suddenly disappeared from her life? Throughout the day, I tried to act normal, but my mind was racing. I watched Sarah closely, looking for any signs that she might be hiding something. But she seemed genuinely happy, excited about the baby, and completely focused on us. It was confusing, to say the least. By Sunday night, I was emotionally drained. I knew I needed answers, but I wasn't sure how to get them without causing another fight. I didn't want to ruin what had been a good weekend, but I also couldn't keep these doubts bottled up inside. As Sarah was getting ready to leave, she noticed I was quieter than usual. "You okay?" she asked, concern in her eyes. "Yeah," I lied. "Just tired, I guess." She gave me a long hug before heading out, and as I watched her walk away, I felt a mix of emotions: love, fear, doubt. I wanted to believe that everything was going to be okay, that we could move forward and be happy together, but those nagging doubts about Jake and the baby wouldn't let me rest. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling again, knowing that sooner or later I'd have to confront this head-on. The question wasn't just about the baby or Jake, it was about trust, and right now I wasn't sure where we stood. After Sarah left on Sunday night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously off. The whole weekend, I'd been trying to convince myself that we were making progress, that things were finally looking up. But the doubts were still there, gnawing away at me, especially about the baby. I couldn't sleep. My mind kept going back to how quiet things had gotten with Jake. The guy who couldn't go a day without texting or calling her was suddenly silent. It didn't add up. Something about it felt wrong, like there was more to the story than Sarah was letting on. That night, while I was sitting on the couch, her phone buzzed. She'd forgotten it on the coffee table. Normally, I wouldn't have even thought about looking at it, but my curiosity got the best of me. I hesitated for a second, then picked it up. I didn't go in looking for trouble, but I couldn't help myself. I opened her messages, scrolling down to her chats with Jake. And what I saw stopped me cold. Jake had blocked her. There was no profile picture, no recent messages, nothing. Just the notification that said he had blocked her. Why would Jake block Sarah, especially now? Confused and feeling sick to my stomach, I scrolled further back in their chat history. That's when I found the conversation that changed everything. It was a series of messages from a couple of weeks ago, just before Sarah told me she was pregnant. Sarah: "Jake, I'm pregnant." Jake: "What, are you sure?" Sarah: "Yes, I'm sure, I took a test." Jake: "It could be his, right?" Sarah: "I don't know, Jake, I'm scared." Jake: "If it's mine, I can't do this. I'm not ready to be a dad. You should think about getting an abortion." The messages kept going, but it was clear where Jake stood. He didn't want any part of it, and then, after that last message, he blocked her. Just like that. I sat there staring at the screen, my heart pounding in my chest. She told him before she told me. And the fact that she wasn't even sure who the father was, it hit me like a ton of bricks. All the doubts, the uneasy feelings I'd been trying to push aside, they all came rushing to the surface. She had been cheating on me. There was no other way to explain it. Everything made sense now. The sudden apology, her emotional breakdown, Jake's sudden disappearance from her life. She was hoping I'd never find out, hoping she could sweep it under the rug. I waited until the next morning to confront her. She came over, smiling like everything was fine, but I couldn't keep it inside anymore. "We need to talk," I said, my voice cold. She looked at me, confused. "What's wrong?" I held up her phone. "I went through your messages with Jake." Her face went pale. "You... what?" "I know, Sarah," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I know you told him about the baby before you told me. I know he told you to get an abortion because he didn't want to be a dad. And I know you didn't tell me the truth." She started to cry. I didn't know how to tell you, she whispered. I was scared. I felt my hands clench into fists, not out of anger, but out of pure frustration. You didn't know how to tell me? You didn't know who the father was, Sarah. You were sleeping with both of us, and you didn't think I deserved to know the truth? She looked down, unable to meet my eyes. I didn't plan for this to happen, she said softly. It just got out of control. I shook my head. And you thought keeping me in the dark was the best way to handle it? She wiped her tears away, trying to compose herself. I was going to tell you, eventually. I just needed time. Well, guess what? Time's up, I said, my voice hard. We're going to figure this out right now. I want a paternity test. She nodded, still crying. Okay. We got the test done a few days later, and the results came back quickly. I wasn't the father. I knew it deep down, but seeing it in black and white was like a knife to the heart. When I showed her the results, she broke down again. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I didn't know. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't even look at her. What about Jake? I asked. Have you told him? She shook her head. He refused to take a test. He doesn't want anything to do with it. That was it for me. I'd been through enough. Sarah, I'm done, I said firmly. I can't do this anymore. You lied to me, cheated on me, and now you expect me to stick around and help clean up the mess? I'm sorry, but I can't. She tried to grab my hand, but I pulled away. Please, she begged. We can fix this. No, Sarah, I said, my voice cold. There's no fixing this. I can't trust you anymore. I can't be with someone who lied to me like this. Don't contact me again. And with that, I walked away, leaving her standing there, sobbing. It hurt like hell, but I knew it was the right thing to do. I couldn't keep living in a lie, and I couldn't be with someone who didn't respect me enough to tell me the truth.